Okay, so here it is. This is the one you're going to want to sit down. You're going to want to get a notepad. You're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to write. So get a pen, get a paper, because this is about lease options. This is all about how you can take no money, no credit, and get real estate. Now, if you've got money, you've got credit, there's other options for you in addition to this. Other deals that you can make using this same formula. So a lease option, it's a very simple process. You can become very, very wealthy over time using it. And I would suggest that you do that. Get that paper, get that pen, because we're going to come right back with it in about 10 seconds. All right, everybody, we're back and welcome. Thank you for being here. And I just got to ask you, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe to the channel, share the videos, do whatever it is you want to do with it, really. But most importantly, get this information, utilize it, practice it in your life, take action, because it's proven that only 1% of people actually do. So be the 1%, okay? Be the 1%. Now, my name is Jason Myles, Jason O. Myles, if you're looking for me, right? And you are going to learn today about lease options. So what is a lease option? A lease option is basically that. It's a lease with an option to purchase. And a lot of people talk about it because a lot of people utilize this method. So when you think about real estate, most people, that is, they say, all right, I'm going to need money. I'm going to need credit. And that is simply not the case. Those things help you. They help you get to where you want to go financially a lot faster. But no matter what, these are deals, these kinds of deals, these lease options, you're going to be able to utilize no matter where you are in the Western world. I mean, the United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, of course, the States, just all over Europe, really. But these are processes that have been around for a very, very, very long time. And it's important that you learn how to implement this into your investment strategy if you plan on having a long career in investment property. It doesn't matter if it's single family, multifamily, commercial, it really doesn't matter. So let's dig into an example of what this looks like, okay? So in advance, I apologize for my chicken scratch, okay? I'm going to zoom in so you can see this because it's a little bit light, but I couldn't do this effectively without writing on this whiteboard. So over here, I'm going to put what a rental situation would look like if a person bought a house over a 4-year period, okay? So here is the rental, okay? And over here, we'll put the lease option. Separate those two, right? So on your typical rental, let's say you bought a property and the rent in that area was, I don't know, we're going to go with an average neighborhood here in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta, but you know, it can be similar all around the country. Price points are going to be a little different. So here in Atlanta, things don't cost as much as they do in a lot of other places. So I tell you what, I'm going to take the number up a little bit. Let's say an average neighborhood where you are is a $200,000 neighborhood. 200K. Well, that's not a good looking two at all. 200,000, right? But you know, that's what it's worth today. But when you bought it, let's say you bought it for, I don't know, let's say you bought it 4 years ago for 170,000. Okay? Now, the rent is going to kind of flip-flop from wherever you are in the country, but I'm just going to use kind of simple numbers here, okay? So let's say the average rental for a property like this in a neighborhood, in your average neighborhood, anywhere USA, your rent will be probably somewhere around $1,300 a month. It's really between 13 and 15 for something like that. But again, it depends on where you are, right? So let's just, for the sake of this conversation, say that the rent is $1,400 a month, right? Now, your mortgage on something like that, if you bought it at 170, PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, your mortgage all in is probably going to be somewhere around, depends on the interest rate, but somewhere around $1,200. So we'll just say $1,200 a month. So that gives you $200 a month cash flow. $200 a month cash flow. That's your cash flow. But again, we're talking about this over a 4-year period, right? So over 4 years, I also want to say that, you're not necessarily going to keep a renter in there all those 4 years. Sometimes you get lucky and that actually happens, right? But a lot of times that doesn't happen. So you're going year to year with a new tenant every time. You want to have retention with your tenants. We'll talk about what that looks like here in a minute. But a lot of times they just stay a year. So in this case, we're going to assume that they're only there for a year and then they're out. But it takes you about a month once they leave to clean that property up. You got to clean the carpets, maybe do some painting, change the locks. You got to do all that stuff, right? But there's 1 month out of the year that you're going to be missing. Well, you've got that mortgage that you have to pay. So that's $1,200 mortgage over 4 years, over 4 times over 4 years is $4,800, right? Right? So that's your cost. Your cost in there is $4,800 over 4, right? Now, we talked about those repairs that you have to do once those people are out, those cleaning costs, having someone come in to clean it, having it painted, because inevitably over a year, you want someone new to come in there and be in a fresh place. You're going to want to have some kind of paint on the walls. You're going to change the locks. Even if you're doing it yourself, if it's a house, you're going to have 2, maybe 3 doors. Maybe you have, garage clickers. You have to change those things. You gotta put some work. That's going to cost you anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. But for the sake of this conversation, let's go on the lower side and say it costs you $1,200 every time you have to do that. And in this case, we're talking about 4 times over those 4 years. So that's another $4,800. So repair cost is $4,800 over 4, right? Now, there's another expense that you're going to have in here, because if you've got these rental properties, a lot of people try to go at it themselves, but I can assure you that's not the best way to go. So you're going to have a property manager that you have to pay for over this 4-year period. And now in most cities, when you just have 1 or 2 or 5 houses, if you don't know how to negotiate, you're going to be paying anywhere between 8 and 10% of that property management fee. Plus there's some other fees that you're going to have to pay in there. They're going to want lease up fees, things like that, a piece of the down payment a lot of times. But let's just say it's 5%. It's not going to be that low. I'm not going to do that to you. Let's run it on the top side. Let's say it's 10%, right? 10% of your $1,400 is $140 times 11. So 140 times 10 is $1,400 plus 140. That's 1,540 times 4. 1,540 times 4. 15 times 4 is 6,000, and 40 times 4 is 160. So it's 6,160. So your property manager PM over 4 years is 6,160. We'll just call it 6,200, just so we can keep the math simple, okay? 6,200 again over 4. Now, that's a lot. And let's say at the end of these 4 years, you want to now sell this house, right? Now you're going to have to put some, in order for you to get all of your 200, all the value there, you might have to put a little bit of money into this property. Yeah, you got some mortgage pay down, but you've been paying a lot of interest as well. We're not going to get that detailed here. But, your repair costs right there are at $4,800 over 4 years. But now you got to come in and maybe you have to change the carpet. You definitely have to paint the walls. Maybe you have hardwood floors and you need to refinish them. Maybe there's repairs to the kitchen and the bathrooms that you need to do, because I will tell you, in all cases, try to get 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms or more. Some people go 2-1s or 3-1s. Those are a little more difficult, depending on the market that you're in, to kind of sell, right? In more expensive markets, those 2-1s, 3-1s, those are good starter homes for people because they don't cost as much. So there's opportunity there But I digress. Let me stay on path here. Let me stay on course. But you're going to need to do some repairs if you're ready to sell that house. And let's just say you do $10,000 in repair. That's paint, flooring, some repairs, updates maybe in the bathrooms, in the kitchen, not full remodels. It would cost you a lot more than that, but you just want to freshen it up and make it as modern as you can, as neat as you can. Those selling repairs, I'm going to call them selling repairs, sell repair, is another 10K. So that brings this up here. We'll just add a 1 here. So that's 14,000. We don't even need to put it down. But now there's also what? There's also your cost to sell that property. Okay? There's also your cost to sell the property. And you're going to pay 6%. Probably another 2% seller's contribution to closing. Not always. It depends on the market you're in. Sometimes you can just do away with that altogether. If you're in a scorching hot market and the demand is super, super high and the inventory is super, super low, you know, buyers are going to ask for everything, but you as the seller in a hot market don't have to give those kind of things. You don't. So market right now is pretty decent, but we're going to look at it as if it was an average market. You know, you're right in the middle there. So if at 200, you're paying 6% to the agents, that's your cost to close, plus another 2% to the seller for the seller contributions to closing. That's 8%. That's $16,000 is the cost to close. So that's the cost to close. 16K. Boom. Now there you are. Now let's look at what all those numbers are. Okay. Here's how much so we know that these are your consistents right here. That's what it is. But we also know right here, we're going to use red because these are your deduction numbers, right? So this is what it will cost you to hold that thing for those 4 months over those 4 years that you couldn't have. That's $4,800. And then we have the cost to repair over the 4 months when you had to clean it and do all that plus the 10, right? So this number here is what? That's 896, 19,600. 19,000, oops. 19,600, right? So that's these right here. And then your property manager and cost to close, that's another $22,200. That's $22,200. What is that? How much is that? That's 800. That's 11. Okay, I'm going to write that a little better, but it's $41,800. $41,800. Okay, now you only had 30,000 in here. Your cash flow that you brought in over this time period was what? What did we say it was? Where's it at? Your cash flow is $2,000 a month. I didn't write it down, so that's $200 a month times 11. It's $2,200. It's $4,800. So if you take that $4,800 off of here, that's $37,000 even. 37K is what it cost you to hold this thing over that 4-year period. Was what it cost you to get all in. I mean, obviously you've got some money that you're going to get back off the 170, but there's not a big spread in there for you. And that $4,800 that you got over 4 years, your cash flow really didn't help you a lot. I mean, yes, you got some tax advantages. There's something to be said about that, but you're going to get the same tax advantages from what a lease option looks like. So let's look at that real quick, okay? Let's look at what that lease option looks like. So now, we'll take the same thing here. We're going to go backwards. So you do this same deal, right? You do a deal with somebody. You do this exact same deal, and you're paying, let's say you're paying the mortgage for this person. You did a loan takeover, right? You took over the loan, and you're paying their mortgage, which in this case is $1,200 a month. $1,200 a month. But We know that the rental in those markets is going for about 14, but we're not renting. We're going to lease option this to someone else, to someone who wants to live there, that wants to have home ownership, that for one reason or another they just can't go out and get a loan. You know, they've got money, but they don't have the credit, not yet. But they're tired of renting. You know, they can't have their dogs in the house. They can't move freely. So they want to be able to do this, but they can't. So here, we're going to show you now how you maximize all this. So if the rent in that area is about $1,400, you're going to put this out as owner financing, basically. You're going to be this person's bank for some term. And we're going to talk about that, again, over the 4-year period. But there's different things that you do inside there. But now this $1,200 that you're paying out, and you know the rent in that neighborhood is about $1,400, but this is an owner situation for someone who wants to live there. They want to own this house. They can't get it. Now this $1,200 might turn into $1,700 a month or $1,600 a month, but we're going to go off $1,700 a month. So you receive your payment that you receive of $1,700 a month. That's what you're getting. Now, you're going to make a deal with this person here that they might have bought this property at $170, but for whatever reason they want to be out of there. And maybe you made a deal to buy this property at $180. You made a deal to buy it at $180. So you've got about a $20,000 building for your equity right there. So your net worth went up about $20,000 the day that you made this deal. But that gives you a cash flow of $500 a month. Or using the same math over here, if you're going to put someone in this property, you're going to do 2-year leases with them. 2. Why 2? Because they want to be there. But you're going to put things inside your agreement that allows you to make sure that they're not destroying the house, you know, that they're not moving in 30,000 people when, you know, you only supposed to have so many in there. I mean, it is their house, but you have to be diligent in taking care of the house, right? You don't want to just let people run willy-nilly and just potentially destroy this property for you. So you have to build things into your agreements that allow you to come and look at that house after about a year, right? So without getting into a bunch of detail, your cash flow is that, and you've got a 2-year agreement with them. So at the end of 2 years, you know, maybe that you can build in an extension, maybe they're going to be ready, but we'll just go over this 2 years, over a 4-year period because they need an extension. So they never moved out. So you're not getting this cost to hold right here, right? They never moved out over that 4-year period. Or let's say they did. Let me shake it up. Let's say the person was in there and they said, you know what? We can't get a loan after these 2 years. We don't want to do it. We don't want to extend. We want to move on. You put someone else in there. So you still have that 1 month. But now that 1 month only cost you $1,200. We're going to call that your hold. $1,200. It's not the 48 it was over here because these people, you want long-term tenants, but remember, they're not tenants. They are property owners. They have a potential interest in this property. So you've got that there, okay? You've got there. It's not your cost. Now, your repair cost, because it's their home, you don't have it anymore. So this $4,800 or this $14,800, it doesn't belong to you. It is their house now. If the toilet stops working, they have to do it. They got to fix it. If the lights go out on the outside of the house, they have to. If the HVAC system goes out, it's their responsibility. All cost of repairs are on them. That's something that you build into the lease. They know it. If they're buying a house, those are things that they would have to take care of anyway. You can allow home warranties. You can do a lot of things that can help them do this, but it's their responsibility. So now you don't have that repair cost. And guess what? You don't need a property manager either. So this $6,200 you spent over 4 years, that also does not exist. It's gone. So all you have now, even your cost to close, it's not there anymore. Let me just explain that. You've already put a deal in place to sell it to this person, so you don't need a realtor. So there's 6% that you don't need. And you don't need the 2% seller contribution at closing either, because you would have already worked that in your deal, which we'll talk about in upcoming videos, but it isn't there either. So over a 4-year period of time, your cash flow was 500 at 40, it's not 48, it's 46, right? So 5,000 times 10 is, or excuse me, 500 times 10 is 5,000 times 4 is 20,000, but we still have 6, that's 3. So that's $23,000. Let me write that down. Your cash flow is $23K over that 4-year period, right? And you only had a one-time hold right here of $1,200. You don't have any of these other expenses at all. So now, if you're turning around and you're selling that property to them for 108 or 200,000, what it's actually worth, and you get them an appraisal and you do all those things, you've got that $20,000 there, plus this 23,000 minus this 1,200, so it's really 21,800. So that's $41,800 of pure profit, that you have at the end of this 4-year term in this particular example. Or excuse me, I wrote it down wrong. I'm sorry. I wrote 21, but I meant 41. 41,000. And that's off one house over a 4-year period. That's one house. Now, if you do this for 5-6 hours a week or even more, whatever your time permits, there's a ton of opportunity there for you. If you did one of these a quarter, just one every 3 months, that's 4 houses in 1 year. Those 4 houses in 1 year, in 3 to 4 years, could yield you, depending on where you, because a lot of times we're getting a lot better deals than that. A lot of times we're getting, built in, 40 or 50,000 and not 20,000 in equity. A lot of times we're getting properties that are going to appraise over 4 years a lot higher than the 200 because of the markets that you're in. It really does depend. Some markets appreciate at a greater pace than others. And that's what you're looking for. That's exactly what you're looking for. So take this in. Below, hit the links below. There's a link down there for anything that you want to do. If you want to look at other videos, hit the link here, subscribe, please do. If you want to have your free consultation to develop your own personal game plan, because again, there are so many ways to do this. It's free. There's a link down here below. Just hit the link, schedule your consultation, and myself or one of my team members will reach out to you on the date and time that you selected, and we'll start putting that game plan together for you, with you, so that you can start moving forward and start to get to that passive 6 figures a month that everybody wants, like I like to talk about. So this is your man, Jason Myles, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.